Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
So let's tell you about Tory leadership candidates who are being grilled by their fellow MPs right now as a series of hustings gets underway. But different views on Brexit among those candidates have already been highlighted once again today. The former Chief Whip, Mark Harper, said this morning that a promise to leave the EU by the 31st of October is not possible. In contrast, the former Commons leader, Andrea Leadsom, vowed that delivering Brexit by that date would be a hard red line. In all likelihood, that would mean leaving without a deal. But in the last hour, Labour has revealed they're launching an attempt to block that from happening. As I said, more on that in just a moment. But first, let's hear what Mr. Harper and Mrs. Leadsom had to say.
I campaigned passionately for the UK to leave the EU, and I continue to believe that a superb future awaits us. But the truth is that over the last 3 years, politics has failed dismally. It has failed to deliver on the biggest democratic decision in our history. Fulfilling that democratic decision is now urgent and vital. It cannot and will not be put off any longer. Leaving the EU on the 31st of October is, for me, a hard red line.
The bit where I perhaps will make myself not popular with my colleagues is when I say that it is not going to be possible to leave on the 31st of October. I would love to. I voted in Parliament to leave on the 29th of March. I voted to leave on the 12th of April. I voted against extending Article 50 twice. But not enough people in Parliament did so. And I'm afraid it is not credible to say you can renegotiate the withdrawal agreement and get it through both Houses of Parliament by the 31st of October.
Just hearing from Keir Starmer within the last few moments, he has tweeted to say the Tory debate on Brexit has descended into the disturbing, ludicrous and reckless. We can't be bystanders while the next Prime Minister forces through a no deal without the consent of the British people. Tomorrow, MPs must act in the national interest. Our political correspondent Tom Rayner is in Parliament's central lobby for us. So basically, Labour and other opposition are saying we're not going to let you do that. We're not going to leave without a deal.
Yeah, that will be the response from the opposition parties. But meanwhile, these hustings for that position of Conservative leader and, of course, the next Prime Minister are ongoing. We had some of those launches that you just heard this morning. But right now, in Committee Room 14, up on the committee corridor, just round the corner, we have had Michael Gove already be grilled for around 20 minutes. Jeremy Hunt is in there now. Dominic Raab is about to follow. 6 candidates overall will be questioned today. And one of the people who is in there is someone who proposed Michael Gove's candidacy. She's Nicky Morgan, and she joins me now. It was all going so well, wasn't it, for Michael Gove until this weekend and those cocaine revelations. He mounted a bit of a fight back yesterday. Did he see more of that fighting spirit in the hustings just a moment ago?
Yeah, very much so. And I think it was a very commanding performance by Michael. There was a lot of support in the room, even people who perhaps aren't going to vote for him, certainly in the first round. But I think people respect what he's done as a minister, his track record in government, the fact he led the Vote Leave campaign. He's got a clear plan to deliver Brexit. It's always a tough audience of MPs who sit there waiting to be impressed. But very much a strong launch yesterday, a strong performance today.
But it feels like things have stalled. Boris Johnson, meanwhile, still adding endorsements. There hasn't been anything new from Michael Gove. Do you think he will get anything more from what he said today?
I do, actually. I think there were people there who are undeclared. Don't forget, a lot of MPs have not declared. A lot of them can't declare because of the jobs they hold. Perhaps they've got official party positions. You know, the point that Michael was saying is he doesn't shy away from any debate. You know, he did the Sky debate during the referendum. He's done lots of other things as well. We're still waiting to hear from Boris. You know, he's got a lot of ground, I think, a lot of words, and he's got to talk a lot about what he's up to because no one's hearing from him.
Well, Boris dropped out last time. Do you think there's a chance Michael Gove will drop out this time?
No, absolutely not. He was asked by Philip Hammond, the Chancellor, who was in there. I don't know whether Philip's going to ask all the candidates, but he said, if Michael, if you get to the final 2, will you 100% guarantee we'll go all the way to the end? And Michael said, absolutely. There cannot be a coronation this time. Our members, after 14 years, need a vote.
Thank you very much, Nicky Morgan. So the Chancellor asking Michael Gove to say for certain that he will not drop out early. I wonder whether that's a question that Philip Hammond's going to put to each of the contenders, whether the Chancellor's going to sit in Committee Room 14 asking that question to each and every one of them. Let's find out.
Hearing from Nicky Morgan, that's a nice surprise. Now, a recurring theme of these campaign launches has been candidates drawing attention to their negotiating skills. The European Union has made it clear that it's not prepared to renegotiate the Brexit agreement, but that's not stopped some candidates from vowing to reopen talks with Brussels.
I'd return to Brussels. I'd make a best final offer to replace that backstop with the Malthouse Compromise based on and relying on technology, operational cooperation and global practice.
Because having talked to many European leaders, I believe that if we show determination, ingenuity and confidence, there is a deal to be done.
The first step is to create a new offer to the EU by introducing UK legislation in July to enable citizens' rights, the future for Gibraltar, the security relationship, air transport arrangements and other sensible elements of the withdrawal agreement to be in place by the 31st of October with their agreement.
We're at the stage where we need to deliver Brexit with a deal, and that's what I've got a plan to do. And it's a plan that the EU are looking at, and I'm getting increasingly positive noises out of the EU side.
Well, let's speak to our Europe correspondent, Mark Stone, who's standing by in Brussels for us right now, as you can see. Hello to you, Mark. So several of these Tory would-be prime ministers saying they'll be able to renegotiate with Europe.
Yeah, and don't forget who their audience is. Their audience isn't you, it's not me, it is not the vast majority of the British population. Their audience is the people who will vote for them, the people who are capable of putting them in that position of leader of the Conservative Party and therefore the Prime Minister as well. And they are Tory MPs and grassroots members of the Conservative Party, who by and large are Brexiteers, and a significant number of them will be hardline Brexiteers. And what I mean by that is Brexiteers who are willing, quite happy perhaps, to go for the so-called no-deal option. And so the question is, are they just telling those people who have the power to put them in office what they want to hear against reality? It was our old political editor, Faisal Islam, described it yesterday as the unicorn Grand National, because it is the belief of some people that they are simply promising things that are undeliverable. Listen to the spokesman for the European Commission speaking today when he was asked whether or not that, as we've said so many times before, whether the withdrawal agreement can be reopened, whether or not a new deal is possible. Here's what he said.
Of course, everybody knows what is on the table. What is on the table has been negotiated successfully by the Commission and has been approved by all member states. And the election of a new Prime Minister will, of course, not change the parameters of what is on the table.
Take the individual stances by some of the candidates. Andrea Leadsom, for example, says that she would use the recess period over the summer to make sure that she, as Prime Minister, and her cabinet ministers alongside her, would negotiate directly with the fellow EU leaders. Well, that is simply not mechanically possible. It is not the EU leaders who are negotiating Brexit. They have given the mandate to a team within the European Commission, and the EU sticks to these sorts of mechanics. There's no way round it. Take Boris Johnson's view that he can withhold the £39 billion and somehow use that money within our own domestic political bank to be able to spend on domestic issues. Well, the £39 billion isn't even £39 billion, because if there is no transition period, then it goes down to around £30 billion. And in the grand scheme of things, when you look at macroeconomics, £39 billion isn't actually an awful lot of money. It won't be money that the EU really misses, because it would be paid over many, many years. So you take individual issues of these individual candidates and you find that what they are promising begins to fall apart. And I think that we will find that, you know, they promised, Theresa May tried to promise a lot at the initial part of the negotiation. She found that it got very, very difficult. We may be beginning to see history repeating itself. They're making promises to the people that they can put them in office that they may not be able to keep.
OK, Mark, thank you.